was getting to the end, the point of why we were here. Pulling from the fan selections, we started to look at, as Mike said, sort of historical icons and things like that. The one that probably had, by a pretty fair margin, the most references was the Johnny Appleseed theme. It was pretty clear that resonated strongly in this community. We had literally hundreds of names suggested that alluded in some way or another to that theme. So luckily we have some folks on the staff who are Fort Wayne natives, and were able to educate people like me who grew up elsewhere, and got out our history books and did a little studying. Johnny Appleseed, as most of you probably know, his real name was John Chapman. He's buried here in Fort Wayne. He was a widely recognized early American pioneer. The story has been passed down through the generations, not only in this community, but we found references in history books throughout the country. He is widely regarded as a man that embodied the true American pioneer spirit, a trait that we like to think continues in this community today. Traveling largely in northwestern Ohio, southern Michigan, and a large part of northeastern Indiana, Johnny Appleseed was known for planting and maintaining apple orchards. He was, by most accounts, both a quirky and a beloved figure in the communities he visited. He was, in a lot of ways, an early environmentalist, improving the communities in which he visited. The history books tell us that he first visited the Fort Wayne area in 1928, establishing his first nursery and orchard here. While he was a man of simple possessions, he was also a man of means. In 1834, he purchased 42 acres along the Maumee River to establish a larger nursery in anticipation of the needs of the settlers who would come thereafter. As we've just seen a couple of weeks back, in terms of how this lives on today, the Johnny Appleseed Festival has drawn large crowds here for the last 34 years. According to Monica Zwick, the publicity director for the festival, the attendance in recent years has been as high as 300,000 attendees. One of the things that also drew us, in addition to this background, one of the things that also drew us to the Johnny Appleseed theme was that, in addition to this historical identity, he was also known for his unique appearance. Constantly on the move, he apparently chose to forego shoes. He was known for having feet with soles as thick as leather. And being a man of few possessions, he carried very little with him. And what he was known for is carrying a satchel full of apple seeds and a tin cooking pot. And he found that pot most convenient to wear on his head as a hat, as a tin cap. So if you look at the brand that we have up here, you see that, as we started to look at this, and at the point at which we were looking at this, we were still, as Mike mentioned, looking at maybe a half a dozen other names. We started to look at this tin pot on the head concept, and it started to look to us an awful lot like the way a lot of folks wear a baseball cap backwards. So that brings us to the identity of the team. Folks can turn around and that. The team will be known as the Fort Wayne TinCaps. We think that both plays to the Johnny Appleseed theme and also to something particularly unique here. As I said, we had an awful lot of names that played to the Appleseed theme. A lot of things starting with apple, apple cedar, apple whackers, apple jacks, a lot of different things like that. We thought, in a lot of ways, what made this really unique was not just the apple connection, but the connection to this particular individual, Johnny Appleseed. As you see, right over here, we have what will be the team's primary rose mark, which is the word tin caps with the rivets, and the apple character wearing the tin pot. We have over there next to Mike a couple of alternate logos identifying the teams being from Fort Wayne. One of them has that tin pot. The other has the little apple stem and leaf. Our primary color scheme, what you'll see over on the board by Mike, it's largely greens, reds, and browns. That also, we thought, worked particularly well for us. going back to when we first started talking about our goals for the project as a whole, one of our goals was really to create what is now Parkview Field and the whole Harrison Square project as not a closed-off area within downtown, really as a true park in the center of the city. So we thought that staying away from some of the less organic colors like our traditional blue, or we see a lot of minor league teams now using blacks and things like that, we thought that those colors might clash with the park-like atmosphere we were trying to create across the street. So we thought that this worked very well because we were able to stick with the organic tones, and we think that'll really blend with the idea of creating a great park downtown. Finally, although this name and identity had been arrived at, and just to give you a little bit of background, we had to, due to a variety of baseball rules where this thing has to work its way through a process, we had to present preliminary artwork on a whatever range of ideas we were still considering back in mid-July, and we had to have our final submission, which was not final until it's approved by minor league baseball, in September. September 1 was the hard deadline. So all of this was actually arrived at before we had firmly established a partnership with Parkview Field. But now that both of those things are final and done, we view it as pretty fortuitous that our primary partner in this venture is a provider of health care to the community, and an apple is a traditional symbol of health and well-being. So we think that all that worked out pretty well. And I think that is, unless I'm missing something, I think that's all we had. And I think at this point we're happy to sort of take questions